The stretch of water from Cape Sutil to Cape Scott separates the inside waters of the east side of Vancouver Island from the west side, which is open to the Pacific Ocean. Cape Scott is notoriously difficult as current, strong winds, wind waves, and swell all come together off a rocky point to produce very difficult seas. Prior to making our rounding, we paid close attention to the weather so as to have the least amount of wind possible and to time our departures so that the current and wind were going in the same direction. We awoke in darkness and fog at 4:30 a.m., not only to catch the slack tide at the Nowitti Bar, but also to take advantage of the lighter morning winds. Here's a chart of the top end of Vancouver Island, so you can see what we were looking at. We spent Monday night here in Bull Harbor on the island of Hope Island. The Nowitti Bar is the shallow blue area right here that separates a very, very deep inlet here. This is the Golettis Channel that's part of the Queen Charlotte Strait from the ocean, the Pacific Ocean out here. So you have swells coming in from the Pacific Ocean that hit this very, very shallow area right here and then have to get over into this extremely deep inlet here. And it causes some very sharp swells and some overfalls. So we left at about 4:50 from Bull Harbor, came down here underneath the reefs to the safer side of the bar, came around Cape Sutil, which this is right here was the most uncomfortable part of our entire trip. And then we motored through the swells about 2 to 2.5 miles off the coast right here, rounded Cape Scott, giving it a pretty wide berth coming down the Scott Channel, and then had quite a few more hours to go as we came down the coast much further down. And again, we've got the wind behind us at this point and the swells behind us, and we came up here into Quetzino Sound.
Cape Scott to port. It's so much more beautiful than I imagined. We have turned the corner and the swells are mostly behind us now, as in coming from behind. So the motion's a lot nicer. About half an hour ago, we had some wind waves and chop up to 6 feet that were coming from all of the directions. And looking forward to getting into Winter Harbor. Kids have been doing well.
Yeah, the kids have been great. They're horizontal on the settee downstairs, watching TV. So it's one of those days where they're just going to have 8 hours of TV, and that's what it's going to be. I'm not ready to celebrate until we've got our anchor down in Winter Harbor. So.
And any parents out there, sailing parents, Canadian antihistamine called Gravel, Gravol, I think. Fantastic. We've had them get sick in less conditions, gave it to them, they perked right up. It comes in a kid's version, it's dissolvable. And today we gave it to them before we left, and they've just been constantly asking for food down below as things go flying.
We've made it to the west coast of Vancouver Island, and as you can see, it's, quite beautiful here. There's absolutely nothing to see, and I'm hoping we'll get to see some coastline along the way. It's been a pretty rough day for us. Our alarms went off at 4:30 this morning and 4:35 and 4:37 because we wanted to be off the dock by about 4:50 this morning in order to make slack tide at the Nowitti Bar, which is at the north end of Vancouver Island, between Vancouver Island and Hope Island. It was pretty rough, which is about everything that we've heard, even though we took the southern route around the Tottenham Reefs, and the reefs, I guess, sort of help stop a little bit of the swell, so the swell isn't nearly as bad on the west side of the channel. But it was still pretty rough going through that, and as soon as we came around the reefs and rounded Cape Sutil, we were just pounding into just nasty swell, and it was really uncomfortable. It's the first time that I've ever felt seasick, so that wasn't particularly good, but luckily that was pretty short-lived. The kids were, I think, a little bit seasick and nervous, but the gravel helped them out a lot. And then we just spent hours after that just dealing with a lot of short swell, because it gets a lot shorter once it gets closer to land, so that was pretty uncomfortable, but we managed for a while. Cape Scott was hard. It was, even though it's a really calm day, we've got two merging currents coming together. as well as a few wind waves, and we definitely had some dancing waters out there. But now that we've passed it, we've got swell behind us, which is nice. The motion's a lot more comfortable. We've only got about 6-7 knots of wind, which keeps things pretty comfortable too. So now we've just got a couple hours to go. We're going to try to aim for Winter Harbor, so that we can duck into Casino Sound and be there for a couple days and explore.
Don't forget the excitement of the Nowitty Bar, which we were told even on a calm day, cross exactly at slack, no more than 20 minutes. Our current resources were telling us slack was an hour off. It was either 5:10 a.m. or 6:10. So we actually knocked on the boat next to us, the only other boat around, waited to go through. We knocked on the boat last night, and they had the same two resources, the same paper book and the same electronic one, and we found the same problem. So we went for the early one and kind of checked it out. Apparently slack lasts about 17 minutes, so I don't even know if we hit it at slack or not, but...
All I know is it was uncomfortable, but we got through it. We're here on the west side now, and it feels pretty good. So we look forward to getting to our destination and dropping the hook. We were excited to see the fog begin to lift and have our first sight of the west coast. The fog continued to lift, and we had a beautiful view of the mountainous coast and the frightening breakers on the shore. The wind picked up in the afternoon, which made the waves rougher. We chose not to sail, though, because we were so tired and wanted to get to our destination as soon as possible. We finally saw the entrance to Quetzino Sound through the haze. But the most welcome sight of all was the Cairns Island Lighthouse. It was not even 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but we were exhausted. Upon arriving in our anchorage, we had a quick lunch and immediately fell asleep for a very satisfying nap. At 5 o'clock, we went ashore to explore and relax. Tom and I enjoyed the solidity of land, but we couldn't keep the kids out of the water. It was an exciting day, and we were proud of ourselves for what we had done and all that we had learned.